My name is Rua Williams. I am an assistant professor at Purdue University. I'm a scholar of critical disability studies, science and technology studies, and human-computer interaction. I want to talk briefly about distinctions. Later, I will discuss distinctions between different kinds of technologies for disabled people. But first, I want to talk about the difference between meeting the letter of the law and meeting the spirit of the law. So I think that the WCAG accessibility guidelines are a good example of technology, policy, and disability advocates coming together to build a system for ensuring access at a massive scale. Unfortunately, it also seems to be the only example. It's limited to specific kinds of access based on clearly bounded kinds of embodiment, and more often than not, it's used as an absolution from responsibility to do any better. Just as ramps, elevators, and accessible toilet stalls have become the default minimal effort in enforcing the Americans with Disabilities Act, alt text and tab order often serve as the limit of access in web-based systems. Just as we have ramps that go to nowhere and accessible stalls blocked by changing tables, we have systems that are accessible according to guidelines but not in practice, with little recognition of the consequences these farcical access performances have for disabled people every day. Where is the cognitive access? Why are usability tests and accessibility tests separate processes? Why are we still behaving as though access is something we develop for other people, rather than recognizing that we are directly responsible for the absence of disabled technology makers? I'm going to leave you with those questions as I move on, because I also want to talk about the difference between accessible technology, assistive technology, and curative technology. Accessible tech is something a disabled person can use with minimal, ideally no, frustration. Sometimes, actually very often, something can be accessible to one disabled person and not another. That doesn't mean it's that other person's fault. It's still the designer's problem. Assistive tech is something that allows a disabled person to interact with the world in ways their bare body cannot. A ramp is accessible tech. A wheelchair is assistive. Alt text is accessible. A screen reader is assistive. Curative tech is something that temporarily or permanently changes the bare body from one that diverges from the norm to one that approximates it. For more on this, refer to Joe Stramondo's work. These technologies are generally the most controversial within the disabled community, but are commonly characterized by how their designs are determined by clinical specifications rather than the desires of disabled people. And this is the most important distinction, and one I want most people to come away with from this event. I want you to understand that curative tech is not assistive. Though this distinction is often an individual specific one hard line that I personally draw is if a technology is designed for a clinical context with the aim of making a therapy more efficient, it's curative, not assistive. If you wish to be an assistive technology developer, but you spend most of your time asking clinicians and caregivers what to build, you are not ever going to make something a disabled person finds personally empowering or useful. So as a thought exercise, I would like us to say, for simplicity, that the history of assistive tech begins in 1921. This is by no means true, but it is a useful date, 100 years ago. I would like the Liberate attendees to imagine with me what the world would look like if we placed a 100-year global embargo on technologies designed without direct involvement of disabled people as informants, designers, and makers.